Welcome back to another game of GP Damascus, and here we have round 2, Giant Poet versus Mako. Mako's on the 5-color Lone Survivor deck that Perp Masaki ran last GP, and they have an opening hand that looks quite good. They have Thriving Building, 2 Thriving Buildings even, and then Betsy's Brood, and Summit Guardian to ramp into. And also, but meanwhile, Giant Poet is on some weird zombie discard deck. Not really sure what Giant Poet's deck try to do other than just the surface level stuff of playing recursive creatures to sacrifice and cause your opponent to discard. So Mako leading out on Amber Hills is pretty strange because they could have just let off with Wayfarer Shrine and fetched Forest and then played Thriving Bloodling. So what's Mako trying to fetch here then, if they're not fetching Forest? Because so they do fetch Forest, so wait, then what's the point of not using Wayfarer Shrine instead? Because Wayfarer Shrine comes to play untapped and you only have to pay 1 life, as opposed to Amber Hills, which made you pay 2 life to untap it. And then now you can't use Amber Hills to fetch your non-basics to get extra colors for your Thriving Bloodling. Yeah, that play made absolutely no sense. But hopefully it'll end up mattering for Mako. It probably will, because Summit Guardian, Mako can just fetch planes with Wayfarer Shrine, and then they will have Summit Guardian mana after Thriving Bloodling comes down. The Giant Poet's going to kill the Thriving Bloodling. And yeah, always bolt the bird, or I guess Twilight Ambush the Bloodling in this case. Mako doesn't get the turn 2 Betsy's Brood, but then again, turn 2 Betsy's Brood wouldn't have been that useful here because Giant Poet doesn't have a creature yet. So Mako plays another Thriving Bloodling and plays a tapped Shock Fetch this time. The Giant Poet draws more of their recursive creatures, but no sack outlets. Giant Poet can cursive draw this turn and make Mako discard 2 cards. Mako does have pretty good cards to discard here. Betsy's Brood has no target, so that's an easy discard, and Mountain, because you're fetching off Wayfarer Shrine anyways. But yeah, Giant Poet plays Curse of the Drow. It's a wrench mine, basically. Mako thinking about what to discard. So if they do pitch the lands, then that does mean that they can't play Summit Guardian, but if they pitch 1 land in Betsy's Brood, then they need to draw another mana source before they can play Summit Guardian. I guess they can also just pitch 2 lands, keep Betsy's Brood, but then the problem is that Betsy's Brood doesn't have any targets, and okay, Mako goes for a plan of pitching 2 lands and keeping the Betsy's Brood in hand. Well, I guess that's also a valid play because you just want to discard lands and keep your threats, but right now Betsy's Brood still doesn't have a target, so if Mako doesn't draw anything, then they're not going to do anything next turn. I guess if they discard Betsy's Brood and a land, then yeah, they wouldn't do anything next turn either. So, Giant Poet passes a turn. Mako, are they going to fetch before drawing? Okay, they are. I don't think I agree with that play because you kind of do need to draw lands here. And now that you're fetching right now, you also don't know what colors you are going to draw, and you do want to get 5 colors, so I feel like it's better to wait to see what you draw, and if you draw a land, then you can fetch knowing what colors you don't have. You're going to get Rampant Summit. Well, does the deck run red-white lands? I think it does run a copy, right? Or no, it doesn't. But Mako could have fetched. Could they fetch a Dominion there? Or no? Okay, so I guess Rampant Summon was probably the right fetch target. Yeah, he probably draws another Twilight Ambush. That's probably going to kill the Thriving Bloodling. Well, Giant Poet's going to draw cards first and then see what they want to do. Room Delver. Okay, that also draws cards. I guess Giant Poet could do something like, they can double Departed Vandal if they want to put on more pressure, but I think they probably just want to Twilight Ambush, the Thriving Bloodling, and then play one of the Departed Evangels. Yeah, it seems like Giant Poet's deciding whether to play Elder Creature or kill the Mad Dork. So if Giant Poet doesn't kill the Mad Dork and Mako top second land next turn, then Mako gets to drop Summit Guardian, and that's a huge punish, so yeah, Giant Poet's going to kill the Thriving Bloodling. Especially since if Mako has a land, then they can augment it to Thriving Bloodling next turn. Mako fetching with Wayfarer Shrine end of turn. Probably going to get planes, yeah. And they get Fog Spewer. And Mako's probably going to Betsy's Brood the creature, because Betsy's Brood now has a target. Not the best Betsy's Brood target because it's a 1-drop that gets itself back from the yard, but better than nothing. And Betsy's Brood on its own is a pretty big creature, so Mako just wants to get on the board. Giant Poet draws Polyp Pools. So now they can play Rune Delver and draw 2 cards. I guess see what they get. Yeah, they're going to play Shardstone Rift untapped and fetch so that they have 2 lands in graveyard for Rune Delver to exile. They're playing the textless version of the card. Okay, so if you don't know what Rune Delver does, basically it's a 2/1 creature with a menace with when it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice you may sacrifice a land or exile a land card from your graveyard. If you do, draw a card and lose 1 life, and then you may repeat this ability once. But what it basically does is, on ETB, it exiles 2 lands from your graveyard and you draw 2 cards. And then if you're super desperate, you can sacrifice lands on the board to draw cards instead of exiling lands from your graveyard. Well, Distressing Reality, I guess it's a wrench mine if you have a zombie. But right now, Giant Poet doesn't have a zombie. If they had a zombie, then Distressing Reality would be a really good draw because that makes Mako discard the last 2 cards. But Departed Banjo got Betsy's Brooded, so yeah, that's not going to happen. I guess Giant Poet can sack Dark Bargain to draw a card and then play another Banjo. Ambush doesn't kill Betsy's Brood. Actually, maybe Giant Poet should have sacked Dark Bargain first, just to see what they draw before playing the Bargain Banjo instead of playing Banjo first and then holding up Dark Bargain, because there's really no point in holding something like that up. Or I guess there is, because Twilight Ambush is an instant. So Mako is at 4 colors now, they're just missing blue. And they get to play down Foxspewer. And Foxspewer is going to prevent Twilight Ambush. It's going to tax Twilight Ambush, so Giant Poet leaving up the mana means that they still can't Twilight Ambush it. And is Mako going to attack with Betsy's Brood? I mean, it's probably a good decision to attack, and Giant Poet's going to take it. They're not going to chump block here. Probably because, well, there isn't really any point in chump blocking. Although Giant Poet is going pretty low on life now, what with Rune Delver and Dark Bargain trading life for cards. And they draw a Swamp. Well, next turn Giant Poet gets to Distressing Reality, Mako's last card in hand. And they draw Initiative, and Initiative is pretty close to flipping. In fact, it's going to flip next turn if Giant Poet plays it this turn, and plays another removal spell. I suspect the line for Giant Poet here is to play Initiative. Well, no, they're going to play Twilight Ambush first. I was thinking of playing Initiative first so that you turn off Foxspewer's act for you, and then you Twilight Ambush for 1. Is Giant Poet playing Initiative here? They're just not playing Initiative this turn. Yeah, I guess that's why they play in this order then. In that case, then shouldn't they have held up Twilight Amp? Or no, right? Distressing Reality would also have gotten taxed. Or actually, yeah, a Giant Poet should have played Initiative first, because if they did, then that turns Foxspewer's taxing effect off for you. But then you can play both Twilight Ambush and Distressing Reality this turn. But Giant Poet's playing a Departed Banjo from Graveyard instead. They're probably chump blocking Betsy's Brood next turn, right? They're getting really low on life now. I wonder if it would have been better to play Initiative and then play your 2 non-creature spells. Mako draws Osk, so not the top deck that they're probably looking for. But that does mean that future top decks of 5-color creatures become live. So yeah, if Giant Poet played Initiative last turn instead of Departed Banjo, then they would have flipped Initiative this turn and then would have been at a huge advantage, because Mako currently doesn't have any way to deal with the flipped Initiative. But instead, Giant Poet has to play Initiative this turn and then wait a turn for it to flip. And then that means they're going to get whacked by Betsy's Brood again. And I don't think Giant Poet can really afford to let Initiative chump block, so they're going to get whacked for 3. But maybe they can just gain all the life back after Initiative flips. Initiative entering battlefield, letting you surveil 1. And Giant Poet keeps it there. Okay, so I guess it's a good card. I think the best draw for Mako here would be probably Maelstrom Elemental, or Submerge into Maelstrom Elemental, because that forces Giant Poet to chump block. Actually, yeah, Grade's also a really good top deck. In fact, is that lethal? Well, no, Mako can Grade for 2. That makes 2 do-1 hasters. And then Mako swings out. Giant Poet blocks 1 of the squirrels and then gets knocked down to 1. But Mako isn't going to play Grade here. Then what are they trying to do here then? Did they not realize Grade squirrels have haste? Are they just using Grade squirrels as blockers because they don't want to chump attack into Initiative? Like, that has to be wrong, right? Like, Mako's ahead on life, so they can, and Giant Poet's super low, so Mako can just afford to push for damage here, because they win the race. Well, either ways, the Mako passes the turn with, I guess they're using the scrolls to block the departed Banjos. And that feels wrong, but maybe gynoidpoet doesn't have enough life to recast their departed Banjos. I mean, at this point, I think gynoidpoet can just sit back and activate Initiative. And Mako doesn't really have a good attack now. You can attack for 6 next turn, I guess. Oh, Profane Emissary. Okay, that's also more life gain. The gynoidpoet can probably get back in the game now. They play Profane Emissary as a 4/4 lifelink blocker, and then end of turn they can Initiative, activate Initiative's ability, gain 2 life. So I guess maybe Mako not attacking with Great there didn't really matter too much, because even if gynoidpoet got knocked down to 1, they would have stabilized anyways with this draw. And gynoidpoet attacking with departed Banjos. I mean, Mako's not blocking these guys, right? I mean, if they do block, then gynoidpoet just gets these guys back. Or they're gonna trade one of them. I feel like that's the worst possible play you could have made there, because now gynoidpoet gets to play departed Banjo and still hold up Initiative. I mean, if you traded both the Banjos there, then at least there'll be one Banjo left in the graveyard afterwards, because gynoidpoet's definitely keeping up the Initiative trigger, or Initiative ability. Or is gynoidpoet going to Initiative at sorcery speed? I guess they just don't want any shenanigans, so they're just going to do it now. And then are they going to play down departed Banjo? I mean, it's pretty free, right? Or how much does gynoidpoet care about going to 4 life versus staying at 5? Does Mako have anything that deals damage? Look at their deck. I mean, they have Maelstrom Elemental, but that doesn't have Trample. Other than that, I don't think they have any Burn or Reach. So the main thing you're going to have to be worried about is just Mako not top decking something like a Submerg. If they top deck a Submerg, they get to Submerg and then bring back Fox Fury, Thriving Buddling, and Thriving Buddlings all get their triggers. And that's just looking at the graveyard. That's not even looking at what Mako could have hit off the top 5 with Submerg. So the gynoidpoets would rather have an extra life than recast Departed Banjo. And Helen Devastator. Okay, so that kills Profane Emissary, and that isn't lethal yet. But still, a really good draw from Mako, because that turns off one of gynoidpoet's main life gain engines. I think Mako probably wants to swing out here. So if Mako attacked with Great last turn, attacked with Great Squirrels last turn, then gynoidpoet would be at 2 less, right? So they'd be at 3, which would be, well, then the squirrel wouldn't exist, so yeah, maybe it didn't make too much of a difference. Basically, the 2 damage that would have happened last turn gets moved to this turn instead. And gynoidpoet's back at 1 life against a decently wide board with only Initiative. Oh yeah, right, gynoidpoet commenting on the fact that if they recast the Departed Banjo there, they would have died here. So yeah, and with the power of hindsight, seems like not playing a Banjo there was the correct play. And Shikai Revenant doesn't block, so not what you're looking for. gynoidpoet can just activate Initiative twice, I guess, and that's 4 extra life, and that means they survive next turn too. I think that's probably what they want to do. gynoidpoet attacks with the Departed Banjo into the Helen Devastator, I guess. But then any point in doing that? You could have just held that guy back, right? So yeah, was there any point in attacking with Departed Banjo there into Helen Devastator? Or was that just a mistake? Well, probably just a mistake. gynoidpoet passes his turn with 2 Initiative triggers up. And Mako top deck Maelstrom Elemental, and I think the game's over. Yeah, Maelstrom Elemental comes down. gynoidpoet's forced to chump block it with, or not chump, but like block it with Initiative. And then they take 8, so yeah, they're dead. 2 Initiative activations won't get you out of this. So that was a super close game, because yeah, Mako ends the game at 3 life. If gynoidpoet survived for 1 more turn, then Initiative would have killed Mako. Yeah, and if gynoidpoet, so on that turn when they killed the Fox Spear, if they played Initiative and then removal spell and then the discard spell, then they would have Initiative in play 1 turn earlier, and I think that probably would have changed the game enough for gynoidpoet to win. Look at sideboarding. Mako probably just wants to bring in more creature removal, so Bressy's Brood, Helen Devastator. And Submerg's also really good because it's a good top deck. Gets you a bunch of value. And I think Hegemony Monarch, is that good? I mean, it sells stuff from graveyard, but probably not. It's just a guy that gets removed. I think you want to mostly bring in Grand Smerg and then maybe some of these guys. And on the Giant Poet side, I don't think they really have anything that's too good. Like they have Fair Trial to maybe kill the Dorks and the Lone Survivor, but Fair Trial doesn't hit Mako's top end. And then Mako's deck also isn't that graveyard heavy. Actually, Giant Poet has a bunch of graveyard hate in their sideboard. And the rest doesn't work because Mako runs all creatures. Maybe Singularity's Grasp to clean up the board. Then again, Mako also has some pretty expensive creatures too, so not a lot of good sideboard options for Giant Poet. Okay, we're back for game 2. Giant Poet gets Sack Outlet. The only Sack Outlet in their deck, and the thing that they're using to make use of all the recursive 1-drop black creatures. And meanwhile, I think Mako got an amazing hand. They have one Osk, and then Genji Betsy's Brood if Osk survives, or if it doesn't. Get a land. Okay, that's really good. Well, they even have Dovon's Masterwork as an option. But I think Mako's probably just going to turn 1's Rampant Summit, play Osk. Yeah. Definitely draws another land. So now, I guess the problem with such a land-heavy hand is, and Profane Emissary, is that Profane Emissary requires you to replace one of your draws with a land in order to enable it. So right now, Profane Emissary isn't looking so hot. Profane Emissary is a lot better when you have a land light hand, because then it actually fetches you a land when you need it. I think Giant Poet is probably playing an issue then, because they don't want to be forced to draw another land next turn to enable Profane Emissary. No, they're going to play a Profane Emissary. So Giant Poet just willing to give up one of their card draws for Profane Emissary right now? Well, I don't think we'll find out, because I'm pretty sure Mako's snapping off the Betsy's Brood here. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, they're going to kill Profane Emissary. I guess playing out Profane Emissary first actually worked out for Giant Poet, because it basically acted as removal bait for Nish 2, which is probably better right now, except they drew another copy of Nish 2, so that's a dead card until Earth Copy gets killed. I guess worst case scenario, they can just sack Nish 2 to Drex's Trepanator, so that the second Nish 2 becomes useful. And yeah, they surveil away a land. So is Giant Poet deciding whether to sacrifice Nish to Drex's Trepanator or not? Because that's the only thing I can really think of, or the only decision that would matter here. And Mako draws another Dovon's Masterwork. So they're going to attack with Betsy's Brood, and Giant Poet's probably just going to take that. There's no point in blocking. Now Mako gets to choose between playing L plus Hegemony Monarch or playing Dovon's Masterwork. They're probably just going to play, L plus Hegemony Monarch. And L fetching an island, turning off the self-ping from paying lands. So Mako will be able to flip L next turn. And that's something Giant Poet has to worry about. They draw Curse to draw. Now, it's not a very good situation for it, because Mako still has 4 cards in hand. I think Mako is probably just going to dump one of Dovon's Masterwork plus a land. Or maybe just both Dovon's Masterworks here, because they have enough lands already. And they're definitely dumping the first Dovon's Masterwork and plus a land, so now Giant Poet's probably going to attack with the Nish 2 here. And then after attacking, they can sack Nish 2 to Cedrix's Trepanator and make Mako dump another card. Although at this point, it doesn't really matter, because Mako can just discard Dovon's Masterwork and flip L next turn, so they don't even need cards in their hand right now. Well, at least Nish 2 surveils another land to the yard, so that makes Giant Poet's next draws better. I think, they're probably going for post-combat sack a Nish 2 and then play another Nish 2. And that actually gets Giant Poet up to 7 cards in the graveyard, so Nish 2 will flip next turn. And I think that kind of forces Mako to flip L and use the removal mode on it. I guess Nish 2, even if flip to Nish 2 isn't an urgent threat, it's a pretty slow threat. So Mako can just wait around and flip L, -2 it, and then, or +1 it, and then next turn, -4 the flip to Nish 2. I mean, either way, Giant Poet is definitely, dumping this card, because they need an issue to flip next turn. Another land. Well, not a problem, because, they can flip L, and in fact, L even wants lands in hand to discard. Wait, they're going to Hegemony Monarch instead. Okay, surely that's wrong, right? Like, by not flipping L here, you're wasting 2 mana. Yeah, why wouldn't Mako flip L there? Did they not have the right mana to? No, they had the right mana. Like, yeah, they had 5 colors, and Ask mana lets you activate abilities, so they could have flipped L there. That would definitely been the correct play, I think. Or oh, right, Hegemony Monarch exiling cards from graveyard means that Initiative can't flip. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's why they did it. So I think yeah, both plays made sense then. I probably would have gone for the L play because like flip L +1, draw 2 cards, discard your land, puts you so far ahead. But I guess Hegemony Monarch being down as a 5/5 is also a pretty big problem. And Giant Poet's going to chump with Initiative. I guess seeing that Initiative isn't going to flip anytime soon, they're just content with using it to prevent damage. So Giant Poet draws another land, and yeah, that's not good. Does Giant Poet have any lands to fetch? Or any utility lands? Well, they have a Cradle of Corruption. I guess they can fetch that. I mean, what else are they doing here with their fetch lands, after all? I think they're just conceding. I guess, yeah, Mako's a bit too far ahead. You can just attack with Hegemony Monarch each turn. Or next time they get to flip L, and then take over the game from there. Oh, Shikari Revenant. Okay, that does force a discard. And then that comes back the Giant Poet's hand at the end of turn. So the Giant Poet going to fetch Cradle of Corruption now. I mean, what else are they going to do? They're just going to concede. Alright. Yeah. So I think Giant Poet could have won game 1 if they played slightly differently and played Initiative earlier. Or 1 turn earlier. But I think game 2 they got bad draws. Maybe kept a bad hand. But yeah, they definitely weren't winning game 2.